Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Jeffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Today, we're going to be going over the Week 8 game previews. But first, I'm sure you're wondering why I have a helmet on. Well, as you know, Halloween is right around the corner, and this year, I'm going to be Mike Evans. I got the helmet and everything. So I'm looking forward to Halloween this year, even though we're in these weird COVID times. I am still excited that Halloween is approaching. I love Halloween, the candies and everything. Favorite chocolate bar? Snickers. Fire. All right, enough about me. Another thing I want to get into before we dive into some football today. The Rays made it to the World Series, but unfortunately we were knocked out. I am so proud of the Rays. I thought we played fantastic. I'm very impressed that we made it as far as we did, and we fought well while we were there. Losing to the Dodgers is unfortunate, but I am proud of what we were able to accomplish, so go Rays! Alright, now moving on into football, we have a couple of games that are going to be on bye this week. We have the Washington football team, the Cardinals, the Texans, and the Jaguars. And if you forget, they tend to be on the top left. Don't forget, when you watch my show, I know that it's going to be long. It's going to be broken up into a bunch of different segments. If there's a specific game you want to check out, just move your cursor to the bottom of the screen and it'll tell you where to go. Also, in the description, I break down where each topic is so you can get there and get the information you need. I also wanted to go over a couple of football players that were not going to be playing this week so you can get them out of your lineup. So a couple of these are big names. Michael Thomas, again, is not going to be playing this week. I know he's killing some of y'all out there because, oh my gosh, he was a first-round draft pick. Absolutely horrible. Next, we have Joe Mixon, also going to be out this week. Aaron Jones is going to be out this week. Miles Sanders is going to be out this week. Man, those are some heavy hitters. Obviously, that moves other players up. The backups, Giovanni Bernard is going to be more relevant. Jamal Williams is going to be more relevant. I don't really know who's going to fill in for Michael Thomas because Emmanuel Sanders has COVID, so I think he's going to be spread around the ball. Also, they're going against Bears, which is not a good matchup against wide receiver anyways. Julian Edelman is going to be out in this game. He's not looking right. I believe he's going to get surgery done on his knee. Also, Chris Godwin hurt his finger, so he's going to be out as well. I don't believe it's going to be a long-term injury, but he is definitely going to be out this week. And I think that's going to do it for the inactives. So, we're going to get into these matchups. Jeffrey?
Yes, sir.
What do you think about my costume, bud?
Not bad, sir. I give it a B-. It would look much better with pads.
Yeah, I could have worn pads. Next year, I'll probably get some pads. Or maybe I'll go as a pirate. I don't know. I'm switching it up. At least I have the Bucs helmet. Look at that. Looking good. All right. I think that's going to do it. Let's get started on the matchups, Jeffrey.
I'm on it, sir. Here we go.
In this matchup, we'll be going over the Titans versus the Bengals. And we're going to start with the Bengals because they're their home team. Joe Burrow had a fantastic game against the Browns last week. He had a great game against the Browns earlier in the season. He has been very good so far, throwing the ball a lot. I believe he's third in attempts and completions this year. He is getting it done sometimes. Every game is not amazing for him, but he's a rookie. I'm pleased with what I've seen so far, and I think that he's moving and progressing forward as a player. He's getting more used to his receivers. Moving on to those receivers, A.J. Green is kind of back. I'm not sitting up here saying that A.J. Green is going to be a top 20 wide receiver for the rest of the year, but he is getting the targets, and I love the targets. So I think that you can fire him up. Titans don't scare me as a wide receiver deterrent. Next, we have the T. Higgins. I think you can start him, and I believe you can start Tyler Boyd. All three of these wide receivers should be able to be started. Moving on to the running back position. Joe Mixon is going to be out, unfortunately. So that elevates Giovanni Bernard. Fire him up. I have him as a high-end running back too this week. He played great last week. Had a nice little touchdown, saving his day. And I think that he should be able to play fine against the Titans. Next, we have the tight end position. No, thank you. Defense, no. Kicker, yes, actually. They have a pretty solid kicker. Next, moving on to the Titans. I'm going to keep this one kind of simple. There are 4 must starts from this game. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Jonnu Smith. They're absolute must-starts. Some other possible starts. I have Corey Davis as a flex play. If you need a flex play, he should be pretty solid. He's getting targeted, and he's talented. A lot of people forget that because he's not been playing very well for the last few years. But he is a talented wide receiver. I'm not playing their defense, and you can play their kicker. All right, time to pick this game. 5.5 point spread for the Titans. It's a solid spread. I'm going to have to go with the Bengals on this one. Not saying that they win it, but I think they keep it close. All right, Jeffrey, what do you got on this one?
Vegas has this game with an over-under of 52 that is tied for the second highest scoring matchup this week. I believe that the Titans will have 4 players in the top 10 at their position. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Jonnu Smith.
Second highest over-under. Man, that Vegas does expect this to be a shootout. I knew it was high. I didn't know it was that high. Man, I agree with you, though. All 4 of those players should be absolutely fantastic must-starts. All right, I think that's going to do it. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Raiders versus the Browns. We're going to start with the Browns because they're the home team. Baker Mayfield looked fantastic last week. Unfortunately, it was right after Odell Beckham Jr. tore his ACL on a terrible pick by Baker Mayfield. It's very unfortunate. Like I said, I'm very sad that Odell Beckham Jr. is out, but with him out, I think other people step up. I don't think that Baker Mayfield is a great play for now, but I'm going to be monitoring him moving forward. Now that Odell Beckham isn't there, it seems like he's going to be able to move the ball around a little bit more instead of focusing on Odell, and I think that that should be able to help the offense. Next, we're going to go to wide receiver position. No Odell, so we're moving up. Rashad Higgins. I think Rashad Higgins is a flex play at best. I do want to monitor him, though, and I think that he should be added in some leagues because I do think that he should have long-term value. Jarvis Landry is also going to have a solid matchup. I think that you can start him as well as a wide receiver 2. Moving on to the running back position. Nick Chubb is not back yet, so fire up Kareem Hunt. I think that he should be a fine play. Play him every week until Nick Chubb gets back, and even when he does get back, I still think that he's going to be played. Next, we have the tight end position, and Harrison Bryant is looking good. I think that you can fire him up while Austin Hooper is not there, so I think that should be fine. Next, we have the defense, no thank you, and kicker, no thank you. All right, moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr actually had a bad game against the Bucs, but the Bucs defense is fantastic. I actually think that Derek Carr is playable in this matchup. If you don't have any other options and you're desperate at quarterback this week, I actually think that you could play Derek Carr. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Nelson Agholor seems as though he's going to be a thing. I think that there's a chance that Denzel Ward shadows him, so I'm not thinking there's going to be a huge upside this week, but I do think that Nelson Agholor is somebody you should add onto your radar. That being said, I'm not trying to start him or Henry Ruggs this week, but I do think that they should be on benches to see what they can do moving forward. Next, we have the running back position. Josh Jacobs did not have a great matchup against the Buccaneers last week, and his production showed. He did not play very well, but the Bucs have a fantastic run defense. I think that this is a get-right kind of game. The Browns do not scare me on the ground, so I think you should fire up Josh Jacobs. I mean, like you weren't going to fire him up anyway. Next, we have the tight end position, and Darren Waller is obviously a must-start. Next, we have the defense, no thank you, and kicker. You can start their kicker. Their kicker is really good. All right, time to pick this game. It's a 2.5 point spread. And I'm not super confident on this pick. Just a heads up. I want to be honest with you. You, the people. Some matchups I'm like, oh, smash play. Other matchups I'm like, this is kind of a toss-up. 2.5 point spread is not a large spread, but I think I'm going to go with the Raiders in this one. All right, you got anything on this one, Jeffrey?
Baker Mayfield had almost 300 yards and 5 touchdowns last week. Easily his best game of the season. It's weird that it came when Odell got injured.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns from... Yeah, 5 touchdowns from Baker last week is a lot. I'm hoping that is something that is going to be continuing. Baker Mayfield has not looked well, has not looked good in the last, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. So I'm hoping that he can get it back on track. It's unfortunate that it's going to be without Odell Beckham. All right, I think that's going to do it. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Lions versus the Colts, and this game's in Detroit, so we're going to start with those Lions. All right, so starting at the top, Matthew Stafford has been meh at best, and the Colts are great against the quarterback position, so I'm not trying to start him. I have him at around 15. There are better options out there. Matthew Stafford has... It's not that he's bad. It seems like they're just not wanting him to throw the ball as much. They want to convert more to a running-based offense, and that obviously is not going to help Matthew Stafford. All right, next we have the wide receiver position. And Kenny Golladay. Of course you fire up Kenny Golladay. He's a beast. I'm not starting Marvin Jones, though. Not a great matchup. All right, moving on to the running back position. DeAndre Swift. I think you could fire him up. His last 3 games has been a running back 2. That's pretty solid, so I think that he's a solid play. Even though the Colts are good from top to bottom defensively. They are very, very solid defensively. I know they have not had the hardest matchups, but they are still very good. And I'm not starting Adrian Peterson. Yes, Adrian Peterson could fall into the end zone. Yes, this is a running first team now, but I'm not trying to start him. I think that you can start TJ Hawkinson as well. This is a terrible matchup for him, but I do think you can start him. The tight end landscape is bad, and I think that he's going to get targets, so you can fire him up. But temper expectations. All right, next we have the defense. You can not play the Lions defense at all, no. And then we have the kicker. Matt Prater can get started because Matt Prater's great. All right, next we have the Colts. Starting at the top, Phillip Rivers has been playing terrible. You're not starting him. Jonathan Taylor's the only running back you're going to start. I actually think that he should have a fine game in this matchup. Detroit does not scare me at all. Next, we have the wide receiver position, and I'm not starting any of them if I don't have to. And that makes me sad because T.Y. Hilton is on a lot of my rosters. At least he was. Dropped him in 1. And the ones I have him on, I'm literally just holding him on for dear life to see if anything could possibly happen. But he is terrible and not getting anywhere near my starting lineup. Next, we have the tight end position. Trey Burton, maybe? I think Mo Cox is coming off of injury, but Trey Burton seems like he's getting involved in this offense. I'm not saying he's a must start, but definitely check him out and see how he plays in this game. I will be, at least. Next, you have the defense. Absolutely play them. They've been fantastic this year, and definitely play their kicker because he's the #1 kicker in the league right now. All right, time to pick this game. 2.5-point spread for the Colts, and I'm actually going to take that because I think the Colts should be able to take this one. Yeah. Oh. All right, Jeffrey. You got anything on this one?
The Colts allow the fewest points to the quarterback and the tight end.
I knew the Colts were great against the quarterback, but #1 against the quarterback and #1 against the tight end? Whew. Man, that's going to be fire. Don't start Matthew Stafford if you don't have to. All right, that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Packers versus the Vikings. And we're going to start with the Packers because they're the home team. Packers are 6.5-point favorites. Starting at the top, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron. I think that he's going to have a fantastic game against the Vikings. Must start for sure. Up next, wide receivers. Devontae Adams is an absolute beast. You start him every week. Other than that, I'm not touching the wide receivers. Next, we have the running back position. Unfortunately, Aaron Jones is going to be injured and out of this game, so fire up your Jamal Williams. Hopefully you have him as a handcuff or you picked him up off the waiver wire, like I've been telling you to. Next, also, if you have Jamal Williams, you're obviously starting him. He is a top 12 play this week. He's an absolute beast. Let's go. Next, we have the tight end position. I believe you can start Robert Tonyan. I've been told Tonyan is the pronunciation of his name. So you can definitely start him. I have him as a low-end tight end 1. Next, we have the defense. I think you can fire them up as well. And the kicker, is dealing with some injuries. But if he plays, I play him. But obviously if he doesn't play, pick somebody else. Next, we have the Vikings starting at the top. Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a fringe play this week because they will need to keep up with Green Bay. They will be down in this game because Green Bay is on a tear this year. I mean, unless you're playing the Bucs, that is. But I do think that he has a solid game this week. Low-end quarterback one. Up next, we have the wide receiver position. Adam Thielen is a fine start this week, but he does have a terrible matchup. Jair Alexander is possibly going to be shadowing him in this game, so temper expectations. I don't expect him to be like a top 5 play, more like a low-end wide receiver one. I do think that might slightly elevate Justin Jefferson. So I think that he's a play as well as a wide receiver 2. Up next, the running back position. Dalvin Cook should be back. If Dalvin Cook plays, he plays for you. But if he doesn't play, fire up Alexander Madison. I know. It was a terrible outing the last time. But I do think that he should be a fine play if Dalvin Cook misses, but I expect Dalvin Cook to play. Up next, we have the tight end position. I was going to say no thank you, but Irv Smith Jr. has been playing pretty well these last few weeks. I think if you need a flyer, you can start him as well. Up next, we have the defense. No, not against Green Bay. And the kicker, I'm good. All right, so the spread is 6.5 points, Green Bay. And I'm going to take those Packers. Green Bay Packers are going to win this game, and I think they win it handily. It's a division matchup, so the Vikings are going to have to put forth a real effort because nobody wants to be beaten by their division rivals. But I still think Aaron Rodgers pulls it out. Up next, we have the Chiefs versus the Jets. And the Chiefs are the home team, so we're going to start with them. The Chiefs is fairly simple. You know who you're starting. You're starting Patrick Mahomes. You're starting Travis Kelce. You're starting Tyreek Hill. You're even still starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know that Le'Veon Bell is there, but I'm starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that he is a low-end running back one. And I think that Le'Veon Bell, going against his former team, revenge game, should be a running back too. So I think that they're both playable. I have them in one of my major leagues, and I believe I'm probably going to play both of them, depending on how the order works out for the rest of my roster. I'm not afraid to play Le'Veon Bell, though. I do think that you can play him, and just like Vegas, I think that the Chiefs are going to be up a lot in this game. And if they're up a lot, why would you be running out your first-round pick all game? You're going to put in Le'Veon Bell, who has a revenge narrative, has a something-to-prove narrative. I think that he gets out there. I don't think that he gets a majority of the carries, but this game's going to get out of hand. And I think that he'll get some work. So I think you can play both of them. So I already went over the quarterback, the running backs, the wide receiver, Tyreek Hill. Other than that, you're honestly just throwing darts at this point. If you feel lucky, you can start Hardman. I don't feel too lucky because they're not going to have to throw that much against the Jets. But there can always be one play. That's how the Chiefs work. All right, moving on. We've already talked about the running backs, tight end, Travis Kelce, obviously you're playing him. Defense, you can definitely play them against the Jets. And the kicker, you can play against the Jets as well. All right, next. Moving on to those Jets. I don't want to play anybody if I don't have to. LaMichael Pirine is the only person that I would quasi-think about playing if I was desperate. Unfortunately, I am kind of desperate in one of my leagues due to injuries, so I might actually be playing him. But for the most part, none of these guys should even be thought about, especially because Jamison Crowder is not going to be playing this week, I don't believe. I think he's doubtful to play, and if he doesn't play, there's no one on this team of value other than Samaje Perine as a flyer flex play. Let's talk about the spread for this game. 19.5 points. 19.5 points? Oh my goodness, that is a huge spread. And I'm still taking the Chiefs. I'm still taking them. Why? Because the Kansas City Chiefs are great and the Jets are tanking for Trevor Lawrence. Let's try that again. I did it. Yeah, the Jets are tanking for Trevor and the Chiefs are absolutely amazing. In this matchup, we have the Dolphins versus the Rams. We're starting with the Dolphins because they're the home team. Starting at the top, Ryan Fitzpatrick unfortunately got benched over the... Unfortunately, Ryan Fitzpatrick got benched for Tua Tagovailoa. Now, I know that Tua is a great prospect, highly drafted, but I actually thought that Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing fantastic. I mean, he'd been winning games. They're competitive in their division. I was kind of surprised that they made this move, but I'm not a coach, so... Anyways, moving on. I don't think that you can start Tua. I think you can pick him up as a speculative ad, but this is not a good matchup. He is going to be under pressure, and look for a couple of picks in this game. Next, we have the wide receiver position. I actually am not looking forward to starting any of them. Devontae Parker's banged up. If Devontae Parker plays, have him as a flex play at best. I'm really not trusting the offensive weapons until I see what Tua can do. I do think he's very talented, but right now it's kind of risky to just throw him in there. So I'd hold off Parker if you could, and I definitely wouldn't start anybody else. Next, we have the running back position. I do think you can still start Myles Gaskin. He's been playing great, and I think that that should continue. Next, we have the tight end position. Mike Gesicki was kind of meh. He was not playing very well, and I don't know what the offense is going to be doing with him. So I would sit him if I could. I know most of you aren't carrying two tight ends out there, but I would try not playing him. Next, we have defense. No thank you. Kicker. No thank you. All right, moving on to the Rams. Had a rough going last week against Chicago, but anyways. So Jared Goff, I prefer not to start him. I think you can start him as a high-end quarterback too, but I'm not trying to start him. Next, we have the wide receiver position. They don't have great matchups this week. They didn't have great matchups last week either, and it showed that they weren't going to play very well. But Miami's corners are better than people give them credit for. So I'm tempering my expectations down a little bit for Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I do think that you could play both of them, but they're both low-end wide receiver 2, high-end flex plays for me. Next, we have the running back position. The team keeps saying that they want to get Cam Akers involved. You know who can do that? The head coach. Get him involved. Just throw him in the game. If you want him involved, he'll be involved. Trust me, I'm sure he's ready to get out there. But needless to say, they're not throwing him out there. So Darrell Henderson is going to be the running back you want until further notice. And yes, Malcolm Brown will still be involved, and he will vulture some touchdowns. So I think Darrell Henderson's the guy you want to roster, and he's going to be a running back too this week. Next, we have the tight end position, and I'm not trying to start either of them. Yes, you could start Gerald Everett, but Higbee's supposed to be back, and it's a really murky tight end room because I think that they're just going to get multiple tight ends involved, and I'm not really excited to start any of them. Next, we have the defense. You absolutely start the defense against Miami. They're playing a rookie, and this defense is fantastic. Next, we have their kicker, and I think you can start their kicker. All right, time to pick this game. It's a 3.5-point spread for the Rams, and I'm going with those Rams. I think that this defense gets it done, and I think that Miami is silly. I think Miami's silly for putting Tua in this situation. They could have waited until after they played the Rams, but needless to say, they did not. All right, Jeffrey, you got anything for this one?
I am surprised that Ryan Fitzpatrick got benched. The team was competing for the division. I wonder if Ryan plays again.
Yeah. I agree, Jeffrey. Tua must have been showing out at practice because to move Tua into the starting lineup in a tough matchup like this, when Ryan Fitzpatrick's been playing very well and they've been winning games, they're competitive in the division. It's a sketchy move. Miami's making some weird decisions. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Ravens versus the Steelers. And the Ravens are the home team, so we're going to start with them. Lamar Jackson has not been the quarterback that you drafted. Yes, he has had a couple of great games, but he has had some terrible games as well. This is not what you drafted a quarterback in the top 2 rounds for. It's absolutely ridiculous. He is being outperformed by a lot of people. He's barely a top 12 quarterback this year so far. But I have him in my top 12 this week. I think that you could play him, though this is a terrible matchup. The Steelers are fantastic against pretty much every position, essentially. I think you can start off Lamar Jackson. Next, we have the wide receiver position. I'm not excited about the wide receivers in this matchup. Marquise Brown is going to need a long pass. He's going to need a deep bomb because I don't think he gets it done with a bunch of receptions because this defense is fantastic. So, if he gets it done, it'll be a long play. I'm not banking on that. That's why he's a low-end flex play for me. I'm not very excited about him. Next, we have the running back position. Mark Ingram seems as though he may miss this game. If he misses this game, that elevates J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I think Gus Edwards is going to be a good first, second down kind of guy. And I think that J.K. Dobbins will be a very good... not very good. I think J.K. Dobbins will be a solid third down back. If I had to pick between the two, I'd choose to have J.K. Dobbins because he has the better odds of having an explosive play that's going to make your week. And I don't think that Gus Edwards is going to be able to get work done on the ground. The Steelers are amazing against running backs. So if it gets done, like we've seen any running back getting it done against the Steelers, big play potential. And the one that has that out of these two running backs, J.K. Dobbins. Next, we have the tight end position. You're obviously starting Mark Andrews regardless of the matchup. You're going to play the defense and you play the kicker. All right, next. Moving on to the Steelers. Big Ben Roethlisberger. I'm not trying to start him this week. It's not a good matchup. Moving on to the wide receiver position. Oh, Chase Claypool. 0.8 points in a full-point PPR league? What are you doing? That being said, Deontay Johnson came back and took those targets from him. You know, I think that Chase Claypool is going to be good moving forward, but Deontay Johnson being back in the lineup is going to restrict his upside. Yes, he still has potential of a big play, and he is very talented, but this is a terrible matchup, and I'm not super excited about it. I have pretty much all three of these wide receivers as playable. Claypool is more of a flex play. Juju Smith-Schuster, I also have around a flex play. And I think Deontay Johnson, if he plays, is a wide receiver too. That being said, if Deontay Johnson happens to not play, I would move Chase Claypool up to a high-end flex play, low-end wide receiver too. Next, we have the running back position. You start James Conner because he's a beast. Play him every week. He's healthy. Next, we have the tight end. No, thank you. Defense, absolutely play them. One of the best in the league. Kicker, you can play him as well. All right, time to pick this game. It is a 3.5-point spread for the Ravens. Give me the Steelers. I think that they keep it within 3 points. The Steelers are a good team. The Ravens have been struggling. I think that their defense is fantastic, but I do think that it's a division game, and these are always closer than you expect. Up next, we have the Broncos versus the Chargers, and we're going to start with the Broncos because they're the home team. Starting with the quarterback, you're not starting Drew Lock, skipping that. Wide receivers, Tim Patrick seems to be injured, and Jerry Jeudy has been playing meh. I'm not trying to start either one of them, but I do think Tim Patrick deserves to be on your bench. Next, we have the running back position. As long as Melvin Gordon is going to be on the field, meaning he's not suspended for DUIs or any other activities, I think that you can start him. He's going to be a running back too, and I think that leaves Phillip Lindsay as a flex play. That being said, this is not a good matchup for them, but I do still think that you can play them. Next, we have the tight end position. Noah Fant's been a little dinged up, but considering the volume he's getting, I think that you can start him as well. Moving on to the defense, I think that you can start them. They're not a great matchup because the Chargers have been playing very well recently, but worst comes to worst, I think that they are startable. And I'm not really trying to start the kicker, but worst comes to worst. I mean, there's worse kickers out there. Next, we have the Chargers. Starting at the top, Justin Herbert is an absolute start. He's been playing out of his mind recently. He's going to be good for this game. The Broncos do have a solid defense, but I think that he should be fine. Next, we have the wide receiver position. I think that you can start Keenan Allen, and I think you can start Mike Williams. I think they're both fine plays. Keenan Allen should be a wide receiver 1 this week, but I have Mike Williams somewhere at a flex play with upside. He always has that downfield threat. Next, we have the running back position. The Broncos are fantastic against the running back, and with Austin Eckler out and Josh Jacobs and Joshua Kelly splitting the work, I'm not too excited about either of them. I have them both as flex plays that I'm not very excited about. Next, we have the tight end position. You can start Hunter Henry for sure. Defense, you can definitely start kicker. I'm not trying to start them. All right, the spread for this game is 2.5 points for the Chargers, and I'm going to go with those Chargers. I think that they should be able to win this and win fairly handily. Their defense is good, and I believe in that offense. So I think that they should be fine. I have them winning by 2.5. Jeffrey, do you have anything for this matchup?
The Broncos are the second best team against the running back. This could be a rough game for Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson.
I knew that the Broncos were great against the running back. Second in the league against the running back? Yeah, Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson are going to have a tough go at it. Not too excited for either of those. All right, I think that's going to do it. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Saints versus the Bears. And we're going to start with the Bears because they're the home team. Starting with the quarterback, you're not starting Nick Foles, so let's not even talk about that. Wide receiver position, if Allen Robinson is healthy, you play him. If he's not, you clearly don't. And I'm not touching any of the other wide receivers. Next, we have the running back position. And David Montgomery is a meh start, but he's going to get the volume, so you start him. No other running backs are being started. So tight end position, Jimmy Graham, I think you can start him as well. They need someone to throw it to, especially with Allen Robinson a little banged up. He's out of concussion protocol, but I do think that Jimmy Graham has been getting enough touches and targets in the red zone. Next, we have the defense. I think you can play him. It's not the greatest play, but with Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders both out on the other side, I think you can play them. Next, we have the kicker, and I'm trying not to start them. Next, let's go to the New Orleans Saints. And starting at the top, Drew Brees. Like I said earlier, Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are probably not going to be in this game. Michael Thomas for sure not going to be in this game because he had a hamstring injury, which he has been injured all year. It's basically his MO at this point. So he's not going to be out there. So I'm not playing Drew Brees. Drew, get on my bench. I have Drew Brees in so many leagues, and it has been hurting. But you got to make pivots. So I've definitely pivoted off of him, especially for this week. Next, we have the wide receiver position. No Michael Thomas, no Emmanuel Sanders, most likely due to COVID. Traquan Smith or any of the other backups, I'm really not trying to start any of them, to be honest with you. The Chicago's defense is very good, so the backups are meh. I'm not trying to start them. Next, we have the running back positions. I think that you can start Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. Of course, everyone's starting Alvin Kamara, but Latavius Murray should be more involved because they're going to need to manufacture yards. And if they're not going to be able to throw it very well, they're going to need to run it. So I think Latavius Murray gets involved. Jared Cook is going to be another way that they can move the ball. I think that he's going to be a solid play this week. Fire him up. I also like the Saints defense because the Bears offense is not very good. And Will Lutz is always going to get some action because they should be able to get it down the field and maybe not score. All right, time to pick this game. This is a 2.5 point spread for the Saints, and I actually think that's too small. We're going to take the Saints on this one. Even without Michael Thomas, without Emmanuel Sanders, I still think that the Saints get it done. Up next, we have the 49ers versus Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks are the home team, so we're going to start with them. Starting at the top, Russell Wilson, of course you're playing him. He's an absolute beast on an MVP tear. Next, we have the wide receiver position, and we're going to, of course, start DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, two of the best wide receivers in the league. Next, we have the running back position. This is where it gets a little tricky. We have 3 game time decisions. We have Chris Carson game time decision, Carlos Hyde, Travis Homer. Absolutely insane. We don't know who's going to be starting at running back right now, but as of now, DJ Dallas looks like he could be an option. I'm kind of avoiding this backfield. This is one of the later games, so you're going to have to make this decision early in the day, whether or not you're going to play with them. And now, it's not like just Chris Carson is out, so his backup's fine. He's clearly going to take up. It's not like Carlos Hyde's just going to come in and take up all the work. Carlos Hyde's also dinged up, and so is one of the other guys. So I'm kind of staying away from this backfield. It's getting late in the season. We got to get wins. So I need some guaranteed points. Next, we have the tight end position. No, thank you. Defense, nope. Kicker, meh. All right, next we're moving on to the 49ers. So starting off at the top, Jimmy GQ, Mr. Handsome himself. I think that he can be started in this game. There should be a lot of passing against the Seahawks because they're going to score points. So I definitely think that you can start Jimmy G as a low-end starter this week. Moving on to the wide receiver position. Unfortunately, Deebo Samuel is not going to be in this one. So Brandon Ayuk is going to be stepping up. Also, Kendrick Bourne. I think Brandon Ayuk will be the lead receiver, but Kendrick Bourne should get some work as well. They both can be started. Brandon Ayuk as a high-end flex play and Kendrick Bourne as a flyer. If you're desperate and no one else is out there, you need a receiver. Kendrick Bourne might get you a little something, something. Next, we have the running back position, who's also in turmoil. So, obviously, we have Raheem Mostert out, injured on IR. Then we have Tevin Coleman, who was designated off of IR, but we don't know if he's going to play, so then that's kind of tricky. Jermichael Hasty looks like he's set to get a solid role, so I have him as a running back 2. And Jerick McKinnon, who got nothing last week because of rest, tired legs, and whatnot. He should get a little bit of work, so I have him as a flex play if you're desperate. And that's going to do it for that one. That's also up in the air because if Tevin Coleman comes out and they just give him a bunch of work, he could be really good. The running back in a 49ers offense is valuable. It's just which one do you choose. All right, next, we have the tight end position. Of course, you're starting George Kittle. Moving on to the defense. I'm not starting any defense against the Seattle Seahawks. They're absolutely amazing. Next, we have the kicker, and you can start him if you want. All right, it's time to pick this game. The spread is 3.5 Seahawks, and I'm going with those Seahawks. I think Seattle should be able to win this game. I won't say fairly handily, but I don't think that it should be particularly close. I think that Russell Wilson's going to get it done, and they'll figure out the running game. And this matchup will be going over the Cowboys versus the Eagles. I'm going to start with the Eagles because they're the home team. Carson Wentz, I think, is a playable asset in this game. Dallas Cowboys are terrible right now, and I'll get into a couple of reasons why, but they're just awful. Super injured. Start up Carson Wentz. He should be fine. I know he doesn't have a bunch of weapons, but I think that he gets it done. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Travis Fulgham seems like he's going to be the primary receiver for this game. Definitely fire him up as a wide receiver too. Jalen Reagor is a player that I want you to keep your eye on. I think that he should be added to benches. I don't think I want to start him this week, even though it is a solid matchup. So worst comes to worst, I think you can start him as a flex play with upside, but I prefer not to. I want to see how he does his first week. Next, we have the running back position with Miles Sanders down. Boston Scott's going to pick up. Yes, he didn't have a great game last week. The touchdown saved him at the end, but I do think that you could play him again. Next, we have the tight end position, and Zach Ertz also injured, going to be out, but they get back Dallas Goedert, activated off of IR, and I believe he plays in this game. So between him and Richard Rodgers, I think that duo should be fine. I'm not super excited about starting either of them, but I think you can start either of them, actually. I prefer Dallas Goedert, assuming he's healthy. Now, unless anything comes out before the game that says he's not 100%, but he's just going to be out there as a decoy. But if he's playing, I think that you can play Dallas Goedert. Next, we have the kicker, and I think it's fine starting Jake Elliott in this great matchup. Up next, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and first they lose Dak to an injury where he got rolled up on, and he shouldn't have gotten tackled that way, and then Andy Dalton gets just crushed for no reason. He was sliding on the ground. It was a completely dirty play. It was awful. And Andy Dalton's going to be out in this game. So now we have Ben DiNucci. Never heard of him? Me neither. He was a 7th round draft pick this year. And I am very interested to see what's going to be happening. If you have the Philadelphia Eagles defense, oh my goodness, they are about to go off against this kid. The Philadelphia defense loves to rush the passer and they like to get sacks. It's going to be a destruction against this offensive line. It's going to be bad. So, next we'll move on to the wide receivers. Of course, this affects them as well. Amari Cooper, not only does he have a rookie quarterback, not only is this defense solid, but Darius Slay is going to be following him, and he's a great cornerback, and everybody knows Amari Cooper does not play well when a good corner is on him, so I am fading him. He is a low-end wide receiver 2 for me this week. Next, we have CeeDee Lamb, and I'm not trying to start him either. If you can find a way to get him on your bench, I would. This is not a good matchup for him. Next, Michael Gallup. No, thank you. And we're moving to the running back position. Ezekiel Elliott, my man, what are you doing to me? I don't think that he's going to be a very good play, but he's going to get the work. He's going to get the touches. I think that he is a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2 that you're going to start. You're not benching Ezekiel Elliott. Let's be real. Let's be honest. He could fall into the end zone. Next, we have the tight end position. Dalton Schultz, maybe? He's a rookie. We don't know what he's going to do, but I do know that rookies tend to like to dump off to the tight end position. So if you're extremely desperate, fine. But otherwise, I would not be touching him. Next, defense, no thank you. Kicker, absolutely not. All right, let's pick this game. It's a 6.5 point spread for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going with those Eagles. Woo-wee. Yeah, I think that the Eagles take this one, and I definitely think that they can win it by a touchdown. Carson Wentz is a talented quarterback, and I think that he can get it done. Dallas is just not looking good. In this matchup, we have the Bills versus the Patriots. And we're going to start with the Bills because they're the home team. Starting at the top, Josh Allen had a great matchup last week against the Jets, but did not perform like we thought he would. I still think you start him against the Patriots. Patriots are a much better defense than the Jets do, but I do think that he can still have a good game. Stephon Gilmore might be out. He looks a little dinged up, so that would only help Josh Allen. I think you fire up Josh Allen this week. Next, we have the wide receiver position. I think you can start Stephon Diggs, obviously, because he's a beast. And like I said, Stephon Gilmore may be dinged up. Cole Beasley can also be started. I think Cole Beasley is a great flex play as long as John Brown doesn't play. Cole Beasley's been looking really good. Next, we're going to get to the running back position, and I am not excited to start Devin Singletary. I personally didn't draft him anywhere because I'm not a big fan, but when Zach Moss is in, it just doesn't seem like Singletary is very good. I have him as a flex play at best. The Patriots are middle of the pack against the running back, so I think you can start Devin Singletary. He's just not one of my favorite options. Moving on to the tight end, no thank you. Defense, I think you could play them against the Patriots. Cam Newton played terribly last week. And then the kicker, I'm not trying to start the kicker. Next, we're going to talk about the Patriots, and this is actually going to be quick. I don't want to start anybody on this team. I think that you can start James White as a flex play, but other than that, I'm benching everybody until I see what happens. Especially now that Cam Newton got benched. I don't think that he's going to stay benched, obviously. He's going to be the starter. But I am nervous about what Cam is going to be able to get done without Julian Edelman being there because the surgery. I don't foresee this being a very good game for the Patriots. That being said, let's pick this game. Before I give my pick, I'm not very confident on this pick. I think that both teams played terribly last week. 6 points scored for the Patriots, 18 points scored against the Jets for the Bills, but it was a lot of crappy turnovers. Josh Allen fumbles the ball a lot. I want to pick the Patriots, but the firepower goes with the Bills. I think the Bills takes this one by 3.5. Up next, we have the Giants versus the Buccaneers. And we're going to start off with the Giants because they're the home team. So, starting at the top, Daniel Jones, not playing him against the Bucs. Fantastic defense. Next, wide receivers. Woo-wee. They have a tough road ahead of them. The Bucs secondary has been playing amazing so far this year. We've been playing a lot better than we were last year. I'm worried about all three of these wide receivers. Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, and Darius Slayton. I'm worried about all three of them. I am not excited to start any of them. Sterling Shepard and Slayton could both be possible flex plays, but I'm not trying to start any of them against the Bucs defense. Bucs defense has been fantastic. Next, let's go to the running back position. Devontae Freeman is injured. So that leaves Wayne Gallman and Dion Lewis to pick up the weight. I think that I don't really want to start either of them. Bucs have one of the best run defenses in the league. I don't really see much upside here. It would be a basement play just to get you a couple points. So I think there's other options out there that you could use. Next, tight end. Evan Ingram, I feel like, is this close from having a solid day each day. Like, oh, I almost grabbed it. Just kidding, I'm mediocre. He's a great wide receiver in general, but I just don't feel like he is getting as involved as he should in the offense. Yikes. All right. Next, we have the defense. No thank you. Kicker, no thank you. Moving on to my Buccaneers in the last week where we will not have Antonio Brown because next week we get AB, baby. Let's go. But for this week, still got to knock out the Giants. So starting at the top, Tom Brady, TB12. Fire him up. He's going to be great. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Chris Godwin's out, so fire up your Mike Evans, even though he seems touchdown dependent for some reason, he does not seem right. There's something going on with him. Next, we have Scotty Miller is a flex play at best. He has some upside. Moving on to the running back position, we have Ronald Jones. I think you could fire him up as a running back too. And Leonard Fournette is a flex play for me this week. I think they both get some work. Deciding which one's going to get the work is pretty difficult, but I do think that they're both involved, and Ronald Jones has been running well, so I think that he can have a solid amount of the touches, but Leonard Fournette is pretty good in the passing game, so we'll see. Next, I have the tight end position. Rob Gronkowski has been playing fine. I'm loving it. Touchdowns galore. Fire up Rob Gronkowski. Next, we have the defense, one of the best defenses in the league. I definitely think that you can play him, and finally, the kicker. I think you can run the kicker out there as well. All right, it is time to pick this game. Bucs are 10.5-point favorites. And I'm taking those Bucs, baby. Woo! Man, it feels so good to have the Bucs have a 10-point spread and be like, you know what? I can take that. We should win it. We should win it. Let's go. I think the Bucs are playing fantastic, and as we get healthier throughout the year, I think that we're just going to play better and better. All right, Jeffrey, is there anything you'd like to add to this one?
The spread is 10.5 points, without Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. I wonder what is going to be when the Buccaneers have all of their players healthy.
I like where your head's at. Once we get AB back and Chris Godwin, what are these spreads going to be? They're already 10.5 against the Giants. Oh, I am so excited for what this team looks like at full strength. I hope you are too, because it's going to be fun. All right, I think that's going to do it for today's matchups. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about where I have everybody. Who's too high, who's too low? What games am I way off on? Let me know what you think. All right, good luck this week, everybody. Peace.